that. But we are also going to add an late afternoon, early evening coaching to confidence. We're going to start with once a month. And then we'll kind of go from there based on your guys' needs and the feedback we're getting. But we're hoping to start this next week. It'll be a 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. So that way you guys can have that. And obviously you're welcome to double dip. Like Christopher, Sue, you guys are all in, you're full time. You're welcome to come to every one of these Fridays and come to that other one, right? It's not one or the other, but we want to create this extra space because the excellent news for each and every one of you is you're all rocking and rolling. You guys are wasting no time. Sue has a buyer already, and you've been with us maybe 2.5, 3 weeks.
Yep,
Taylor's got, yeah, exactly. Taylor's got 3 buyers she's working on. Christopher is like crushing his social media game. Like I cannot even. So this is all really excellent news for each and every one of you guys and for us because we believe in you all so much. But it also means that we recognize we need to add a little bit extra time for you guys. So when you do have those emergency questions and things like that, Christopher, you got somebody getting pre-approved. You've got your buyer. I love that. So keep that in mind with this announcement. I hope you guys find it useful. Our rule of thumb is it doesn't matter if 30 people show up or 2 people show up because the people who show up are the people that want something from it, right? So we always are going to do this for you guys. We're always going to be that resource. So now that my big announcement is done, I'd love to kind of open it up to you guys and kind of hear what you guys, all those things I said before. I don't want to have to repeat myself. But Sue, I see you're already unmuted. So do you want to start?
Sure, absolutely. I'd be happy to if I have answers to all your questions. So how I've been spending my time, you know what? I've been continuing to go through all of my contacts. I have my spreadsheet, my Excel sheet. 9 times out of 10, all I have is phone numbers for people. So I have been having great success by texting. And depending on who I'm texting, obviously, you know, asking about the kids or asking about the job, you know, personalizing it. However, for people that I really haven't, you know, touched on lately, you know, sometimes it's the same message that I'm just copying and pasting to, you know, to people. But I've gotten a great response. Obviously, that's how I even found my buyer. It was a friend of mine and my husband's, her son. You know, she's like, we're good in Arlington Heights, but my son is, you know, has been looking to buy. So that's how I got him. So I still have a lot of people to fill in my Excel sheet for, and my goal before I start the next AMP session is to have that entire thing filled up so I am ready to go when I start AMP. So that is my goal. I got 2 more weeks to do it. So I'm on a mission with that. But I will also tell you that I have been really trying to, and maybe I need to touch base with Christopher, the whole social media thing. I was on the call yesterday, the spring call. I can't remember what the name of it was, with a great education gal.
Education Expo. Mm-hmm.
That's what it was. And she had 2 people on there that I was so impressed with. I've already communicated with the one gal in Virginia. You know, she does Facebook and Instagram, and she gave me some great ideas. So because my whole thing, and tell me to shut up if I'm talking too much.
You're good.
My whole thing is, as much as important as I know my contacts are, my sphere of influence, I kind of feel like I want to have other things working for me in the background while I'm doing this. So that's kind of my thought process. So I've been working on trying to, and my whole big thing with that is material. Like the best things to repost or the best things to share that are going to grab people's attention. As far as Sales Pro classes, I took CB Distinction and I thought that was amazing. I was looking through my notes and I know I've taken more classes, but the other one that really resonated with me was Business Planning with David. Mm-hmm. That one gave me the most clear idea of exactly what I need to be doing, which, you know, as I've been making these contacts, obviously I'm reaching out to more than 7 people a day, you know, and getting responses. But that really has been setting me up so that I know that's where I need to go. So that one made a big deal to me. And again, I'm sorry, I know I have attended like way more than that. I did an MLS class yesterday. It was kind of like the introductory one, which helped make sense of the MLS for me. I also took a stab at Social Ad Engine, which wasn't a class, but I just kind of dove in and got myself, I actually got one referral off of my Facebook business, ad that I had going out there. So, I'm trying to reach out and actually get this person to respond to me at this point. But she did click the learn more button. So I guess that's a first step. Burning questions. And I know I make you crazy, Rachel, but it's like I'm still in the process, of working my way through it, and especially right now having a buyer. It's kind of like I just kind of need to know what I need to know when I need to know it, kind of a thing. And I know once I attend AMP, there's going to be a lot of my questions that are going to be answered. But like right now, it was just that the buying, buyer contract thing that you and I were just texting about. That's most urgent for me right now. I just want to make sure I'm completing that correctly. And as soon as he responds to me and, I am able to set up some showings with him, I'm sure I'll be reaching back out to you and saying, okay, how do I do this? So just kind of bringing me through the process as I need to know it, or like letting me be like a few steps ahead. Mm-hmm. And then the last one, what kind of topics? I'm sorry, I can't read my own writing.
So we could save the deep dive stuff for the end for everybody, but I want to touch on a few things that you said. And thank you so much, Sue. I hope each and every one of you guys feels ready to come after that, because she took a lot of it and it's always hard going first. So I love it. First thing, I want to commend you so much on going through your contacts. That is huge. If you guys have attended my 80/20, we did that like last month, Curtis, my 80/20 coaching of confidence. And don't worry, guys, if you're like, wait, I came on 2 weeks ago and you're talking about things you taught last month, we do recycle the coaching of confidence, but we always add like a little something new so people don't feel like it's the same thing they've heard every time. So don't worry. But 80% of your business should be coming from your sphere. So that is perfectly amazing that you're doing that. You want to keep making those reach outs, making those connections. And honestly, when you're new, it is the best time two things, the best time to reach out because everyone's excited for you and you have something to tell them, right? You're not just, hey, it's Sue, your favorite realtor. You looking to buy, sell, rent, or invest. You have an exciting new career, new passion. It is an easy thing to start the conversation. And then you're like, well, what happens 2 years in when I don't have that new exciting thing? That's the second part. Starting this mindset and system for yourself to daily reach out to contacts and track who you're talking to, starting that now will ensure that 3 years from now, you're doing the same thing. Right? The hardest part of Curtis, Nakia, my job is when we have agents 10 years in the business and they want to learn and start a new thing they should have been doing from the start, right? Like the hardest thing I do is when I coach your colleagues who are long in the business and they haven't called anyone in 4 years. That's hard because you're also learning something, you're trying to adapt to a whole new process. So doing that right now is going to set your business up for success in the very long run. So minimum is 5 contacts a day. Minimum is 5. You guys have no secret. I always share with you guys, right? Our job is to strategically grow the office, and that's why all of you are here. Those measures that Nakia, Curtis, and I have are 25, 3, 2. And I share this with agents because this works for you guys. While we're out there strategically growing and recruiting agents, you are strategically growing and recruiting clients. Same exact thing. So we do 25 calls a week, 5 calls a day, minimum, should result in 3 appointments set up within the next week, right? So if I'm calling people Monday, sometimes I'll have an appointment that Thursday, but we look at a week, right? And 2 affiliations per month for you guys, 2 new clients per month. And I know like how overwhelming it is to be like, really, does that really work? And I'll tell you, when I was a new managing broker with Coldwell Banker and I was an assistant manager previously, I didn't really have to recruit. But when I took over the West Loop office in 2019, I had 14 agents in that office. And now some of you on the call are in that office because it's upwards of 50 within 2 years. So actually less than 2 years. So I was thinking the same thing, like, how is that actually going to work? And when I did my math in a 12-month span, it was exactly 25, 3, 2. Exactly. So what I'm saying that to you is Sometimes you only get 2 appointments for that next week. It doesn't mean you stop trying or you don't keep going forward for that. But when you look at the 12-month picture, it will equal out to that 25.32, right? And again, that's a minimum, right? So think of it, if I do 50 calls a week, if I focus on 10 calls a day, that should get 6 appointments. I should have 4 new clients per month, right? So think of it always at that basis, but I really recommend you guys focus on that. And you're already starting it. The other point I'd like to add to that, to help you guys with tracking, is as you're calling, as you're texting, as you're messaging people, make sure to have your InTouch open, your CRM, your CRM and InTouch open. And you can then write in a note into each and every person that you talk to that day to make sure that, because when I first started in real estate, I realized I was like calling my same 10 people all the time because they're my best friends, whatever. And I was forgetting about other people. You don't want to forget about other people. The best way to do that is to track in your CRM. Talk to Christopher today. We touched base. He got a new puppy. It's so exciting. Like, I sent him dog treats that week. Keep those notes for yourself and talk, and keep the notes of what you talked about. Like every time I do calls, I have notes, so that when I call that same person a month from now, I can review those notes and be like, okay, what did we last talk about? What's going on with that? And it's really easy for me to like start that conversation up. And it also makes them feel like, wow, Christopher really paid attention to me. Like, that's really awesome, right? He's thinking of me, which means I got to think of him with real estate. So make sure you guys do that. I think that's great. The classes, couldn't agree more that the business planning with David and Joy, phenomenal. I mean, I tell you guys again and again, that's the #1 rated class in Sales Pro. And I do know they have evening classes. So Taylor, I see you're on the call and I know you can't answer because you're working right now, but take the evening class so that you can really participate. Phenomenal class. I think they typically run 6 to 9, I think, typically in the evenings. CB Distinction, if you're looking to understand what we have at Coldwell Banker and how you can leverage it, that's the best class. Hands down, CB Distinction, such a phenomenal class. It's basically crash coursing you through desk and explaining to you all the great products, great tools we have and how to leverage them. So that's one other thing that I think is awesome. And then to your questions, first of all, Sue and everyone, you never bother Curtis, Nikki, or I with your texts and calls and emails. Like, you never bother us. That is our job. This is why we are here. It's to serve you guys, to help facilitate successful businesses for you all. That's our job. So you never are a bother to text or call or email. We'll always get back to you. But would it be helpful? And I can only see Christopher and Sue, but Sue's big question was about the buyer rep agreement. Would it be helpful if I took a couple minutes and actually screen shared and kind of took you guys through paragraph by paragraph our buyer rep agreement and how to explain it to a consumer?
That would be super helpful for me.
Christopher, we're good? Okay. Awesome. So I have it up in Dotloop already, so you guys can easily find this in Dotloop, but I want to do it. And Curtis, let me know if you can see my screen.
Sorry, I muted myself. Yep, we can see it.
Perfect. So again, I found this in Dotloop, and all of you guys should really, really make this a pinnacle of your business when working with buyers. Legally speaking, the buyer rep agreement is not a necessity. It's not necessary to get paid at our company. However, license law dictates that you have a fiduciary responsibility to explain agency to your clients, okay? This document explains agency. It ensures that your buyer knows what you are allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do, what to expect from the buyer experience, et cetera, et cetera. It also protects your commission better than anything else. Procuring cause, and this is a topic we can certainly talk about at a later date because it has a lot of nuances, but procuring cause is probably the #1 issue that we see come up with agents. Procuring cause is who gets the business, right? Who actually has earned this commission. Having this buyer rep agreement to back you up is the best defense you have to say, no, the commission's mine. So this is why it's super important to have this. So going through it, looking at it, obviously, like right at the start, it's just talking about how Coldwell Banker, we're the broker. We are designating a sales associate. one of you guys, right? So let's just go off of Sue. Let's do this because it was her question. So we're designating Sue, and her information will be in here later, to be the agent for the buyer and for the purpose of identifying and negotiating to acquire real estate for blank, which is the buyer's name. Okay, so you're just going to put the buyer there. The representation is where you put your name. So buyer accepts Sue Radke as the designated agent and the only agent for the buyer, and the purpose of representing the buyer in acquiring their real estate. Okay. And so it kind of just goes through some legalities here, and you are able to appoint, or we are able to appoint, additional designated agents if necessary. So let's say Sue got sick and she couldn't show it. We could be able to say, okay, Christopher's going to cover it. This will be the referral fee, etc. The term, I highly recommend all of you guys do these for a year, minimum a year term. The only reason why I say that is most often your buyer's going to find something in like 30 to 60 days. Like it almost never takes a year, but from a personal experience, I've had buyers, we were looking, we were under contract, the stock market did a crazy thing, they got crazy, they pulled out of the contract and wanted to stop looking for a couple months. Then they found a place. Luckily, I had a year-long buyer rep agreement, so it protected me and my commission and my ability to help them find the place. So I always recommend a year-long agreement. Section 3 goes through your duties as the designated agent. So your duty is to do your best effort to identify properties listed in the MLS or elsewhere, like the PLN, Zillow, Realtor.com, wherever, that meet the buyer's specifications relating to location, price, features, and amenities. You're there to help arrange for inspections of the properties, not to be the inspector, right? But to help facilitate that inspection, meaning I can give you the recommendations of the inspector. I request that inspection with the listing agent to make sure it's approved, and I am there to help facilitate. You are there to comp out the properties. You're there to help negotiate a contract that is acceptable to the buyer. You are there to be the confidential, the confidant of the buyer, right? And make sure that you keep that in confidence. We owe all of our clients that obedience, loyalty, confidence. And you're there to act as their representative and to provide those duties for the broker. You guys are the designated agent. Coldwell Banker is the broker, okay? So this is basically just saying that we agree to supervise what you're doing, right? We take responsibility for what you're doing. So, you know, presenting all offers, negotiating through that, you know, we're there to help as necessary if you guys need our help. We are there to consult with the designated agent to help Sue negotiate if needed, things like that. Then section 5 talks about the buyer's duty. So this A is very important, to work exclusively with designated agent Sue to acquire real estate during the time that this contract is in effect. This is an exclusive buyer representation agreement, contract, I should say, which means the buyer is agreeing to work with Sue and Sue only, not Sue plus Christopher plus Curtis plus Rachel and whomever else. He's agreeing to work with Sue. The best way that I explain this to clients is I always just, when I'm talking about the buying process, I always say, you know, my job as a designated agent, per license law, ethics, and frankly my why, is to be the best resource for you in all of these ways. I put a lot of time and energy to ensure that I guide my buyers seamlessly through the process. And so what I ask for in return is that my buyers work exclusively with me. I don't work with buyers who work with multiple agents because I feel it hinders my ability to help you in the best way I know how, and it also can impede our process together moving forward. That's basically all I say, right? So typically, I know a lot of brokers for some reason get super nervous to ask somebody to sign this exclusive buyer rep, but why are you guys working for free, right? Why would I take Christopher on 47 showings without knowing that Christopher is going to work with me and me only? Because after 47 showings, no buyer rep agreement, and he decides to go work with Sue 2 days later and goes under contract, that's time, energy, money wasted. So that's what this is, right? That's the insurance. The representing other buyers, it means that you're telling them, yes, I will probably have other buyers if and then it talks about they might be interested in acquiring the same property. And if so, there's ways for you guys to kind of maneuver that. The commission. This part's the part that always trips everybody up. So what this is doing is explaining to your buyer that you expect to make at least, and here we typically have 2.5, but you could also put 3. You could also put 3.5. You don't have to have something set in there. But as we all know in MLS, the co-op buyers agents are given is typically 2.5 minus, 475. So this is telling your buyer, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I expect for my services to make a commission of 2.5% of the purchase price. 95% of the time, that is paid for by the listing side. The seller agrees to pay commission to the listing agent, who then pays me out from there. So 95% of the time, this isn't even going to have to be something on your radar. I will be compensated from the other side. The other 5% of the time, that is a possibility that you might be responsible for that 2.5%, is if you identify and want me to help you acquire a property that is not co-oping with brokers. An example of that might be a for sale by owner that doesn't agree to pay commission. Leave it simply like that, right? I'll tell you, I think in the 9 years I was selling, I had that happen maybe twice. Both times my buyer paid the commission. So it really is 95% of the time you're going to get that. But this is why it's also important to have this agreement signed prior. Because if you have this agreement and your client does ask to see a FSBO, and you do try to get that FSBO to pay a commission, and you can tell the buyer, like, I'll do my best effort to try to get that seller to agree to a commission, but if they don't, this is what's expected. Your buyer already knows going into that house for a showing that if they want that property and you're going to guide them through it, that they're also going to have to pay that 2.5%. You don't want to surprise your buyer with that after the showing. After the showing, they tell you they love it. You don't want to have to go to them and say, well, they're not paying commission, so you have to pay me 2.5. Don't wait till then. It's too much of a surprise and it's not going to sit well with them, right? And you might lose out entirely on the deal.
I think that answered your question. Yes, Sue? Sue's just saying, so if we were to put 3% in there, will it be 3% or will it be 2.5? At the closing table, you would ask your buyer to make you whole. Is that how you would coach
Correct.
them, Rachel?
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay, got it.
Yep. The possibility of dual agency, I really encourage you guys, and we're going through this, and obviously we're going through in a training. Every single document you ask someone to sign, you guys should have read it like 10 times. I really encourage you guys all, think of that as like weekend homework, or I'm doing an open house and it's slow. This is a good idea. Go through Dotloop, go through the templates and read our listing agreement. Read the buyer rep agreement, because what you don't want is to be stuck at that table. And this is why it's great that Sue asked, right? Because we're going through it together. But what you don't want is to ask someone to sign something that you can't explain back to them, right? So, but really read it, because a lot of these do, once you read it once, read it a second time, a lot of your questions get answered, but definitely read it. So the dual agency just explains to the buyer what dual agency is, and if it ends up coming into play in our transaction, what it would mean for the buyer. That's all it is, right? So make sure you're versed in dual agency. If you don't have any listings right now, you can always just say that, but they do need to agree or not agree in this. And you can just ask them what you have to explain what dual agency is, the pros and cons of that, let them make the decision. Then it talks about previous representation, failure to close, disclaimers. These are all just legalities that are in there. So read through them, understand what it's talking about. But it does talk about how you have to keep confidential anything the buyer tells you, even if there's a new agreement and things like that. So the cost, the identification, we're basically saying, listen, we're not going to be a part of disputes and claims and judgments, loss, damage, cost, etc., incurred by us or incurred by you. Non-discrimination, this is a big one. That's why it's all in caps. Fair housing, guys. Fair housing 101. This is letting your buyer know that you will not participate in any forms of discrimination, and they cannot either, and that if they do, you reserve the right to terminate this agreement. and vice versa. So that's really what this talks about. And then at the very end is where the buyer signs. You guys are designated agent. We as managing brokers, we are the broker. Just so you guys remember that, right? So that said that earlier, I think in the second paragraph, determining who is that. So make sure you guys only sign where designated agent is. We do encourage you guys to have this filled out completely for your records, if nothing else. It's really important to have that all done. Don't leave any blanks. It's a good idea just in general. Never leave blanks on contracts. You got to fill everything in. So does that kind of make sense? I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see your guys' beautiful faces. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, much more sense.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect. Never be afraid. The best piece of advice I would give you is like, you guys are all new. This is the time to implement standards. This is the time to implement systems and policies and practices that you want, not just now, 5 years, 10 years, 12 years from now. Okay. We work with a lot of agents who think the buyer rep agreement is worthless and they don't want to use it. And it's very hard to train yourself, once you've been doing something for 5 years to use it. But I will tell you that when they then have issues and that's not signed, it's very challenging to come out on top. It's not impossible. I don't want to freak you guys out. It's not impossible, but this is the standard. It is also, again, the number one best way that you can ensure you are meeting your fiduciary requirements per license law. It's not Coldwell Banker. It's not me. It's not Nakia. It's not Curtis. It's literally license law. You have to explain agency to someone. This is the best way because everything you've talked about, the process, how I work for you, this is why you should use me, is now in writing. And they signed it. So it really just, protects your commission, protects that license law requirement. And if you don't make it a big deal, they're not going to make it a big deal. Like I can promise you guys, like all the agents that say, oh no, buyers, they don't ever want to be exclusive. I'm like, look, like I started this job at 21. I was getting people to sign this, the first showing, even before showing, I get them to sign this because it's about articulating your value. You guys are all running a business. You're all running a business. And if you're not securing your income, then you're not running a good business. So that's my soapbox about the buyer rep agreement.
I was going to say, you'll be surprised when it will turn up and bite you. I was taking an anesthesiologist out from Rush Hospital. We were gone out for a couple of months, seen several places. And they went to an open house, and lo and behold, they were so excited. They were like, oh, we found our house. But they found it without me after we'd been out for a couple of months before. And I was happy for them. But, they kind of realized at the time what they did. They were like, we're so sorry. But, that's water under the bridge by that point. You know what I'm saying? So it does. If you think you don't need it, you'd be surprised when it comes up from behind.
And this might seem very obvious, but just as you just did with us is exactly how we should do with them. Like literally be sitting with them ideally and verbally go through every single piece of that contract with them.
So that's kind of up to you guys on how many questions they ask. So there's two ways that buyers typically you start working with. The one is I'm going to sit down with you, Christopher, and I'm going to have a buyer presentation. And 100% of the time, this buyer rep agreement should be part of that buyer presentation. You do not want them to leave that presentation not signing that. Just like when you go for a listing presentation, the goal is to leave with that signed listing agreement. The other way, and sometimes this happens, right, where it's like, hey, I'm really interested in buying, and Sue's kind of in this boat right now where this person's like ready to go. Like, I got to go right now. Sometimes it happens that we'll go to one showing, and then we'll explain agency while we're at the showing. We'll dot loop this to them. Both options are okay. And sometimes it's kind of up to you to play that through. So a really good example is like when it's my family, friends, people I know, I trust, they're going to use me. Typically, I'll be like, okay, well, let's go do the showing and then I'll send it to them, right? Because I know that. But that's always still not the best thing because it's like kind of taking a shortcut in business, really is what it is, right? So think of this as a necessity in the business. You don't typically need to go all the way through it. What I would say to them is have the conversation of, this is exclusive buyer rep agreement. what it does is it explains to you what my job is as your designated agent, lets you know what I'm here to do, what I'm here not to do, and just goes through the agreement. You'll notice this part about commission, explain that, and then I would have them sign it. It's not like you have to go line by line by line. And you're going to have some people that are like, explain this line by line by line. Cool. Most people are going to be like, yeah, Sue, whatever, I'll sign it. So I always say it's like, sometimes we talk ourselves to death as realtors. Like, Curtis, would you agree? Like, I've actually over talked this buyer rep agreement where it's almost like talked the buyer out of signing and wanting to work with me, only for the fact that, go ahead.
It's not a thing in case you make it a thing. If you're doing your buyer presentation, this is the process, this is how you buy, this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to schedule your showings in 20-minute increments, and then you just naturally it feeds into your presentation, and it, like I say, it won't be a thing in case you make it a thing.
I mean, it's exactly it. Because sometimes when you start going into like, oh, the legalities and all of these things, they're like, whoa, I wanted to like buy a property. Same thing with listing agreements. And I know that we're not talking about that right this second, but honestly, like, I think it's, I want all of you guys to get 7% listings. And I know it's possible between Listing Concierge, Real Vitalize, your skills as agents. It is 110% possible. I was getting 7% listings without having any of that, so what I find is a lot of agents get really intimidated talking about your income, what you expect to make. And what I want you guys as all newer agents to really start embodying is that this is your job and you are going to make money from it. And we need to stop being apologetic when we talk about that to buyers and sellers. Because when you go to a dentist and they tell you that's going to be $550 for a crown, are they afraid to say that? Nope. Do you argue with it? Nope, you pay the bill. When we go to doctors, same thing. When I go to a coffee shop, I go to Starbucks, and every time I'm like, oh my God, $5 for a latte. Does that stop me from going to Starbucks? No, I still go. So realtors really, I find so many are apologetic when they talk about what you expect to make. Do not be apologetic. I was on a team, my team lead had 30 years experience in the business. Phenomenal woman, phenomenal real estate agent. We were on the North Shore, so like Evanston, Wilmette, Winnetka. And every listing presentation I went on with her, and she went through the listing agreement, she would always do this huge value proposition. This is who we are. And then we got down to the commission. She'd go, we do charge 5%. But like I said, you get so much. If I told you guys that, wouldn't you be like, 5%? That seems like a lot, I guess. You're undercutting your value immediately. All that time and energy you just spent telling me why I should be your realtor, and then you immediately undercut it. The way I get 7% is I do my value. I go through the listing agreement like it's no big deal. I'm like, and so here's where we talk about the property. We agreed on $375 as the listing price. The commission is 7%. I am going to co-op 2.5% out of that to the buyer's agent. There is a fee to Coldwell Banker for $495, and I keep talking. Works every time.
Like, matter of fact, this is just the way it works. Yeah.
And if they push back on the 7, which I get it, 7's a lot. What I'll say then is, okay, so can you talk to me about what's your biggest concern then with the 7? Let them talk, let them do most of the talking. And if I let myself get pushed down from 7, first of all, there's a lot of numbers between 6 and 7, 6.5, 6.25, 6.75, 6.6, whatever. I take things off my side. Because if I don't, then I'm telling them what I just told them was only ever worth 5 to begin with. I just was hoping for 7. Right? Same thing with the buyer rep agreement. If they push back on, well, 2.5, I wasn't expecting to pay. Again, 95% of the time, you're not going to have to. But that 5% is a possibility. And I can't hinge my career and my business on 5%, right? So that's why I put this in here. My value is worth it for that. And again, we're only going to have to cross that bridge if and when we come to it. I feel confident we're going to be able to find you something based on what you're looking for in the MLS. That's how you got to handle it. So awesome. I did a lot of soapboxing right there, so I apologize, you guys. But Christopher, do you kind of want to talk to us about how you've been spending your time? What's some of your favorite classes? What's been working for you?
Yeah, sure. Great stuff. Thank you. You know, I'm learning a lot all the time. You know, this is probably, I started in January, so it's going on about 5 weeks in. One of my favorite classes, if I had to, from Sales Pro, is the business planning class. Because, Caldwell is savvy and, you know, you can hit the floor running, but if you're not prepared to do so, you know, you got to kind of know where you're at, what your tools are. So I learned a lot through the CB distinction, but really putting things into focus was, well, how do I do it? Like, how do I structure my day, my week? You know, how do I build my book of business? And I learned a lot. Like I said, oh, wow. So, you know, when you break it down, like if I want to make 80 to 100K, I need 15 listings and 8 of them need to be listings and, you know, 7 or 9 of them or et cetera needs to be buyer. You kind of like, okay, how do I get that? And then you follow the 25-3-2 rule. And I mean, it makes it more attainable. So the business planning class is a must for those that haven't yet to take it. Learn Moxie, you know, the CB distinction is also a must. But honestly, I've been leveraging social media. My sphere of influence is really helping me out right now. Because, you know, you talk to everyone just in general. You're catching up with people just in general. And you don't make it about real estate. You don't, you know, just catch up like you normally would, talk about dogs, food, the pandemic, et cetera, and how you're dealing with all of that. And then I'll be honest, you know, when it comes to real estate, I don't even have to mention it. Like, obviously it's on my social media, but that right there is a conversation starter. Oh, really? Oh, wow. I've been thinking about buying. And then it just kind of spirals into something bigger. So I think, you know, people want to, I think the shopper now is a younger, savvy, and, you know, they're on Zillow, they're on Redfin. So by the time they talk to you, they kind of already have a really good idea as to what they want. So use this time to kind of get knowledge. You know, I do a lot of reading. I stay on top of the market because I get hit with questions that I may not know the answer to, but I use it as a learning opportunity, you know? So I'm leveraging my sphere of influence to learn a lot on the real estate side too. Anything I don't know, I have them to thank because I'm looking into it, reading into it. I met with some lenders. I'm learning a lot through them. I met with Aaron Wise, which is great, Natasha Robinson, and Doug Smith, which all came highly recommended by Nakia. So just kind of realizing that, you know, Caldwell's a great firm. I have a good friend of mine with another firm, and he's just like, dude, you know, like, man, like I wish I was on that side, you know. So
He can be. Get that 221. Give me his
yeah,
name.
I know, but he's really kind of vested a lot of time within, you know, where he's at. So, you know, I think that this is it's a great place to be. I think that it's slow right now, but you know, I dig into MLS too. So every day I'm digging through expires, I'm digging through canceled. And for those that haven't taken the class, I mean, get on MLS and learn how to do the advanced search, because what helped me was like learning how to add fields in MLS. Like you can add zip codes and expiration dates, and you know, you can break it down and really, really search through an area and see cancels and expireds and see what's out there. And then also take the class for Remime if you haven't. Oh man, it's like I had no idea with Remime. If you're trying to farm, do the Remime class. You know, it's going to teach you how to search through taxpayers' records, and you can say, okay, well, I'm farming, you know, 60618, you know, Avondale, or I'm farming whatever zip code you want. You can set it in Remime to see who owns within 8 to 10 years, how much is their property value worth, and you know, you get names and addresses if you really wanted to go that route, just to send like a postcard or a mailer. So I think what I'm doing now is really prospecting, farming, leveraging social media through my sphere of influence. And I got 2 buyers potentially. One's already put in the application for pre-qualification. So he's working with Doug Smith at Guaranteed Rate Today. And that's all through like sphere of influence, you know. For those that don't know, Panera, Starbucks, and Potbelly have community bulletin boards. So I would really leverage the local community. Just pick up the phone and call them. Call a coffee shop. Hey, do you guys have a local community bulletin board? They say, yeah, great. Go put your business card on there. And one of those, it was a Starbucks actually. Not all the Starbucks, most of them have a community bulletin board. It's like a magnetic one. And you can put your business card up there, a flyer, whatever. And you know, I'm getting calls. So I think right now I'm learning how to do this, how to structure my time every day. And I think that's helping me. So I'm really I'm excited. You know, Curtis is great. I've reached out to ask questions. He was there for me. Rachel, you're great too. You know, Nikia's there too. So I think that, you know, I know people that got into real estate around the same time I did. And they're with other firms that are like cloud-based or just without the support. And they're kind of asking me questions. I'm like, well, dude, ask your managing broker. Like, who do you have that's helping you being onboarded? Well, it's really not like that. So, you know, use the tools, lean on your resources. And I like that open door policy. I really do. So that's it. Yeah, I'll get off my soapbox too. But sphere of influence, I had no idea. Like, you know, and I think what it was is David Hacker's great, by the way. We just finished our AMP today. And there's someone in the class, and she said, you know, my neighbor listed with someone else. And it kind of drove her to like, why wasn't it me? You know what I mean? And I think you have to think about it like, well, did they know you're in real estate? So, you know, I mean, I'm like, oh my God. So I went downstairs, we rent a condo. So I went down there in the laundry room and I put my business card on the bulletin board. Like, what am I thinking? So if they don't know you're in real estate, you know, and David Hacker says it in the class, like, you know, 70% of the people that you go on these presentations with, they're going to pick you. They don't know anybody else. So I think that, you know, stay knowledgeable, you know, get ready. I think it's going to be busy. I think spring's going to be busy, but just be knowledgeable and yeah, be a familiar face. I think 2021 is really top of mind. That's the game. You know, content is for social media, Sue, you know, I went on Etsy and my wife found this calendar. Again, it's just a reference. It's just a starting point. It was $8. Go on Etsy and it was a real estate content calendar. $8, and there's so many different ones. And I'm not kidding you. Like, it's going to tell you all the national days you didn't even know existed, and all these national days. And if you wanted to, you can, you know, post something relating to that, or, you know, you can just see based on like February, every month of the year, it says this day you should consider posting something like this. You know, today we're going to talk about principal. Put a video talking about what principal is. And then with the calendar that I found on Etsy, I'll then leverage, you know, what we have on CB Desk. You know, I'll go and brand serve, and I'll see, okay, well, all right, we got a holiday coming up. All right, I can use that because my calendar says I should post something for that. And then I'll, you know, so I can't believe that stuff was out there, you know. So I think that I leveraged that with whatever's going on. I think that's really the best thing. And people are, you know, top of mind, you know, like people are talking. I'm getting phone calls, you know, I'm getting text messages, and I'm like, you know, my goodness, you know, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing because, you know, I think they don't know what you don't know. You know, you may not know how to do it just yet. You know, you may not have this stuff memorized just yet, but it becomes systematic. And I think that, you know, I met with the lender, and before I stop, he really put things in perspective. His name was Aaron Weiss with Guaranteed Rate. And he said, you know, it's like when you meet with people, service is key. But remember, I know $100,000 agents that don't put billboards up. They don't put wallscapes. They're not, it's just all sphere of influence. And make it a thing to check in on people. You know, he also knows people that make a lot of money and they don't follow up with anyone, and they're always dumping money in marketing. So if you focus on your sphere of influence, you don't have to make it about real estate 100%, but keep yourself top of mind and check in on anything like birthdays, holidays, whatever. Like, stay top of mind, check in with them so that, you know, when it's time to sell or buy, they got your number, you know.
That's
so
a great point, Christopher.
yeah.
I love that. I mean, one thing that was always a pinnacle for me in my business, and it kind of still is for you guys, because you guys are my clients, right? Is this idea of you don't need to know everything, but everyone needs to know that you will find it out and you will get back to them, and you're going to offer that white glove concierge service, because culturally, consumers would prefer that. They would prefer that, right? You know, there's always going to be a small population of people who like only care about the numbers, only care about like, I need the expert in this, that, or the thing. But I promise you, it's a very small percentage of the population. Most everybody else just wants to know that they can trust you, they can rely on you, and that they don't have to source the answer, you will. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And you really hit the nail on the head so many times, Christopher, dropping knowledge on us over here. I love it. But Aaron is correct as well, right? We have a lot of agents that don't spend goo gobs of money on marketing, right? You guys all know that I'm a big fan of farming. I always only ever spent 80 to 90 bucks a month on farming. That's it. And I put the rest of my time and energy into my sphere, into social media, mostly free. Sometimes I'd pay for ads, but those are like dirt cheap anyway. And I was a very successful agent. And then there are agents that always have to be on the billboard. They're on the cover of magazines. They go like crazy. But they also leave a lot of money on the table because they can't handle it all. They're not focused on following up with people. Those agents typically have a problem with ROI on the deals. I'll give you a perfect example. There's a top agent, I'm not gonna say who it is, they're not at our company, but they're friends of mine. He pays for a ton of Zillow leads, and he's a top agent. He's probably got like 10 people on his team, okay? He pays for Zillow leads. And as you guys know, buyers to go to sellers, right? It's typically first-time buyers that 3 to 5 year span they're gonna sell. 3 years is when they're most likely, to start thinking of it. But anytime between that 3 and 5 years, a first-time buyer is thinking of selling and upsizing. So what he found was that his Zillow buyer leads from a couple years ago didn't list with him this past year when they went to sell. Yeah, he got the leads, he got the buyer side, but because he's so focused on, getting like a huge influx of leads with no follow-up, right? No post, I'm going to talk to you every other month, right? I'm going to stay top of mind. To Christopher's point, he was actually losing business in the long run. That's being a transactional agent and not a referral-based agent. Transactional agents are churning and burning for the next deal, the next commission. Here's the deal, you guys all want to make money. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't be thinking about where your income's coming from, but if all you're focusing on is where's my next commission, where's my next commission, where's my next commission, you are not building a pipeline. Referral-based agents know what they have closing in the fall. Not because they're under contract right now, but because they know who they've been talking to, who they've been keeping warm, whose lease ends in September, so they're going to close in August. They know that because they're not tunnel visioned on just looking at the transactions I have this moment. So those are some really good points. I love that, Christopher. I think that's so great. I know we've got a little under 10 minutes left. Does anybody else want to share on some things that they've been doing, some things that have worked for them?
I can talk a little bit about what I've been doing. Hi, everyone. I'm Taylor. So I've kind of been doing this part-time for right now. I've been spending most of my time on social media, similar to what Christopher has been doing. I kind of just put out a post like, hey, everybody, I'm in real estate now. Let me know if you're in the market and we can talk. And then I went on and I kind of made my own website. I've been using a lot of Canva. So I love marketing. I'm a big marketing nerd. So I use Canva a lot in my freelance jobs. So I've been making some different posts and kind of making like an educational Instagram. So I've been putting stories or posts out kind of every other day, talking about like, what do you need to do as a first-time home buyer? What type of things should you be looking at in the market? What would you need to be doing to get pre-approved? Just kind of talking about the process because my demographic right now is going to be mostly first-time home buyers. So trying to nail into that market. And just off of the one post I put 2 weeks ago, like just telling everybody I was in real estate, I had 3 people contact me that are now I'm helping find homes right now. So those are my 3 buyers. So that's been pretty awesome. And then I also used Instagram stories and made a couple surveys. The first one was like, who's moving this spring or summer? And then the next question was, are you buying or renting? And then the next question was city or suburbs. Once that survey poll ended, after 24 hours, I just downloaded the results and wrote down everybody's name who took it and what they were looking for. And most of them, I already have their phone numbers because they're my sphere of influence that I've known from college or high school or whatever it was. So I wrote down all their names, and those are going to be like the 70 people that I'm going to be following up with the next couple of weeks to reach out to, like, hey, I saw that you're moving in March. Like, let me know if you need any help. I'm happy to have anything, like meet with me, stuff like that. So that's been really helpful. And then I also went through and made a couple different questionnaires specific to like a buyer or a seller, if you're renting in the city or the suburbs. So I made those and put them on my website and then put the links on my Instagram profile so that people could just go and click on them. And if they're interested, the questionnaire will go straight to my email so that I'll get all that information right away. So that's kind of how I've been spending my time. And I really liked the business. I wasn't able to attend the whole business planning class. But after the class was over, I went through and filled out the business planning Excel sheet, and that was really helpful just for me wanting to like quit my full-time job and do this full-time in the next few months to figure out like what I need to do to supplement that income and how many clients I'm going to need to have, how many people I need to contact, and that type of thing. So that class was very helpful, and I only attended half of it. So I'm excited to be able to attend the whole thing at some point.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think that's great. I love all of that dropping knowledge. I actually just like did a Canva thing. I'll share my screen with you guys real quick. I saw this on Instagram to help me keep more organized on my desktop. I went and I built this on
Ooh.
Canva.
Love
So
it.
I had all these files, all these folders everywhere. So I built this on Canva so I can like have my like files and folders and everything all specific. So that's kind of one of the things that I really recommend you guys all do. I'm obsessed with it just to help me keep more organized and everything like that on there.
Yeah, and Canva is so awesome if you don't have like a graphic design background or a marketing mind. They have like tons of templates that are so easy to use, and you could put in like your own colors and make like a kit and everything. And I love Canva. It's like the most awesome tool.
Canva?
Yeah.
Okay.
Canva's great. Canva's really good.
Yeah, the common denominator sounded like it was the business planning class. I mean, out of the 3 people that shared, everybody had taken the class and seemed like it was one of the most valuable. I've taken it every year. It's the same. It's not the same class every year, but the idea is the same behind it, and it's always been my most powerful, my most productive class that I take. That Excel spreadsheet at the end is it's so telling about where you're going, where you've been, and how to get there. So I think it's probably the most powerful of the classes.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys all so much for sharing. I think it's really great for all of you guys to also have that collaboration with each other. I encourage you guys to reach out to other people. If you guys all want to drop your Instagram handles in the chat and things like that, so you can at least follow each other there. And Sue, I know we're going to get you up and running on that. Don't you worry. But that way you guys also have each other as resources, because that's one of the best things about real estate is having that collaboration with your peers and knowing that you have people you can reach out to. Because yeah, Nakia, Curtis, and I are fabulous. I'll do my hair flip. But it's sometimes really nice to talk to a peer, right? And just be like, hey, what did you guys think of this? Like, have you guys tried this? Or, Chris, I've been loving your Instagram. Like, what was kind of your inspiration for it, right? Or Taylor, what are some of the questions that you ask people on those, questionnaires? Things like that. Like, I'd love for you guys to have that feeling like, yes, I've got those resources. So going into next week, we are going to, I think I saw a farming deep dive. So would it be good for you guys next Friday if we did some farming stuff?
That'd be great.
Perfect. We'll start there. And then your homework is really more of an ask from me. I would love if each one of you guys could shoot me and Curtis an email with just like 5 to 7 like deep dive topics. That's something you're really interested in learning more about. You'd love it, whether it was coaching to confidence, new to business, because ultimately I can sit here and think, oh, this is what they want to learn all day long. But this is all for you guys. So we want to know what it is you guys want to learn. We talked about the training. I always think of the education classes are about learning how and why you should do something, how to use a tool, why you should do it. The coaching, the new to the business, is about leveraging it to work for you in your business. So as you think about topics, think about, yes, I know I can take that class in Sales Pro for farming. I'd love to see in real time, and this is like how Curtis and I teach farming, is because the educators, they don't go into MLS. They don't go into Remind. They don't show you those nuances, right? They talk to you about why farming is important, right? They talk to you about how you can implement it. We're going to show you how to leverage it. So as you think of those questions or those topics, really think about what is something I kind of already know. I think it's interesting, but I'd like to learn how to leverage it better. So with that, and Jessica, nice to meet you. I don't think that the business planning class is pre-recorded. It's really like something you've got to do in person or live, I should say, but they do have an evening class. So if you go into Sales Pro, you can look. I think there is one coming up in March, like maybe in a week or two. So, all right, you guys, I'm going to let you go. So good to see you. Be safe this weekend. Enjoy that 39-degree weather we're about to get.
Heat wave.